Okay, I currently show Luann. Do you see that we are live now? Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so Jim, we are live if you would like to call the meeting to order.
Am I unmuted okay to everybody now? All right. We will call a Community Resources and Tourism Committee to order, and it is at 4:46. Thank you, everybody, and a shout out to Luann. Thank you for helping us very much to get the Zoom online, and we really appreciate it to Luann, so thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The first order of business is to call a roll call, and because this is our first meeting on Zoom and we didn't have an April meeting, I'm going to ask Julie if she would give the roll call. Can you have it over line, or do we need to take a roll call orally?
Normally we don't. I just record
No.
the attendance, so we don't need to actually
So-
take a roll. I've got that recorded who's all present, so.
Thank you. So that takes care of roll call. Thank you. The minutes were sent out in the agenda and other things, so all of you to read, and that would be a March minutes. So if everybody didn't have a chance to read them, I apologize, but if you'd look at those, that meeting was March 9th. And Julie, our county clerk, always takes the minutes, and a shout out to her too, Julie, for being our secretary and doing a great job. And those meetings then, if you've had a chance to read them, I would ask if there's if you would approve them, or if there's any corrections or additions that anybody cares to make.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as is. Jim Zons.
Thank you, Jim. Larry, can I hear? And Larry Doms or Larry Bjork? Did you second it?
That was me. Jim.
Yeah.
Okay. All in, you've heard the motion and seconded, and all in favor to approve the minutes from the March 9th meeting, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you very much. The minutes are approved. Now, moving on, I decided that I think to start this meeting, it would be good to take a few minutes to reflect, and we have a few new board members, committee members that I will be introducing in a little while, and ask every one of you to introduce yourself, and so we can get to know each other through this Zoom telecommunication. And it's different, but it's exciting, and that's great. So we'll get to each one of you in a minute. Let me begin by saying the roles, the responsibilities, and what we do in the community resources and tourism, I think needs to be a little bit of a review. Not only for those of you new on the committee, but for those of you carrying over even, it doesn't hurt us to refresh ourselves of what we're doing. We kind of divide ourselves into these areas of responsibility. University of Wisconsin Extension. And we have later on, we'll be hearing from Catherine Emanuel, who is the area extension director, and she will update us, everybody, a little bit about what's happening within the 3 counties. Ordinarily, we have a county extension educator or specialist give a report. This month, we will not be doing that. But in the following months, you can expect a report from one of our Dunn County extension specialists. So Catherine Emanuel will be upgrading us a little bit on University of Wisconsin-Madison Extension here in Dunn County. Then we have a new person on board here from the Dunn County EDC, and I'm also president of that board, and we have Stacy Wigfield, who started with us on April 1st and been doing an awesome job in going over the technology and everything. And I will ask Stacy a little later to give us a little report and update on what's happening with the Dunn County Economic Development Corporation. And they report to us every month. We always have an update on broadband, because broadband in Dunn County, rural broadband, is a big part of Dunn County goals. It's a part of our big master plan. And Bob Colson has been very good in updating us, always working with Dunn County Economic Development and even UW Madison Dunn County Extension. So Bob Colson will be coming on board now and talking a little bit about updating us and where we're at in Dunn County on broadband. And in tourism, I'm delighted to see Kimberly on here today. Kimberly is the tourism person with the Greater Menominee Area Chamber of Commerce, and you're new with us, Kimberly, but welcome. We're looking forward to having you talk, because tourism in Dunn County, CR&T, the tourism is for the rural parts of Dunn County. And so we want to work closely with you, Kimberly. And so we're glad you're on board. And then I want to mention outside agencies, because every year our committee has looked at the outside agencies in Dunn County and which ones we're going to fund. And this past year, because of budget constraints, you remember that we narrowed that down pretty well to funding Dunn County Housing, the WW Western Wisconsin Regional Planning, and Dunn County Economic Development Corporation. And we wanted to fund a lot more, but we had to stay within our budget guidelines. But that is the responsibility of the Community Resources and Tourism Committee as well. And so I think I've gone through the broad parts of what Community Resources and Tourism does. And we're going to move on from that now with that introduction. But before we do that, I think I'm going to take a minute just to let everybody introduce themselves, and then Catherine Emmanuel, will go to you if that's okay. So, you know who I am. I'm Jim Anderson. I'm chairman of the CR&T committee and also president of Dunn County EDC board. So to all of you, welcome aboard. We've got an exciting 2 years ahead of us. And now I'm going to start calling on you individually. I'll call on some of you people that have been on the board a while. So I'm going to start with you, Jim Zahns. Jim Zahns is the vice chair of this committee. Jim, tell us briefly about yourself so that the others, new members, will know for sure. I think Ann might be the only person that doesn't know you here. And maybe Ann, you know Jim. Jim Zahns, you're on.
Yeah, as Jim said, I'm the other Jim on this committee, Jim Zahns, and I've been on this committee now. This will be starting into my third and fourth year on the committee, and really my passion is tourism. So I'm hoping that we're able to do a lot more with tourism over the next 2 years.
Thank you, Jim. I agree with you. Let's go then to the other continuing on member, Larry Bjork. Larry, good to have you here.
Thank you, Jim. Well, I'm Larry Bjork, a farmer in the town of Springbrook, and finishing up a 25-year career with Walmart Transportation. And I left the chisel plow to come and look at you, Jim, on the screen, and so far it's so good. And really happy to be on and have experience with University Extension and a real strong advocate of what it offers Dunn County. Good to be aboard again. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, thank you. Glad to have you aboard as we continue to go on. Well, not new to any of us, but new on this committee, which I'm really happy about because I will be new on his committee tomorrow morning. So Tom Quinn, who's chairman of the PR&D. Tom Quinn, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Jim. Glad to be on the committee. Yeah. So I have been serving on the Health and Human Services Committee with Larry, and also, but I'll be leaving that committee and joining this committee. And as Jim mentioned, I'll be continuing on as the chair of the Planning, Resources, and Development Committee, which I've been chair of now for, I guess, about 4 years. So looking forward to this, though.
Thank you, Tom, and we're looking forward to your contribution to the CR&T. Well, and I'm going to go to Dave Bartlett next, who is our county board chair. Dave, we're really happy that comes to all of our, at least almost all of them, to our CR&T meeting, and we really appreciate that. So, Dave, if there's comments you'd care to make at this point, we'd sure appreciate hearing from you.
Oh, no comments. I've known all of you except Ann for quite a few years, and looking forward to getting to know Ann as well as everybody else. This is my second term as the chair, and looking forward to moving forward this year.
Thank you, Dave. So are we. We're excited about the future here, and we're going through. Well, Ann, finally, welcome to you, Ann, and we all want to know more about you. I've heard some great things. Ann, tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you for the nice welcome. So I am from District 16, and I'm a librarian in Menominee. So I'm excited to be part of this committee and learn a little bit more about the extension and the Economic Development Committee Corporation. So do you have any other questions?
Anybody have any questions of Ann? Well, I heard some wonderful things this afternoon from Catherine when I talked to her. So maybe Catherine will even allude to that about your leadership experience. But anyway, now the rest of you on here, you're going to be reporting as your committee. So I'm going to go if there are no questions right now. And so the rest of you, Kimberly and Bob and Stacy, if you'll hold on a while, we're going to Catherine Emanuel. So Catherine Emanuel oversees 3 counties, and she could tell you that. It's Eau Claire, Chippewa, and Dunn County. And she helps us greatly with everything, budget and overseeing so Catherine, we're just delighted to have you back, and good conversation this afternoon. So I'm happy to introduce all of you again to Catherine Emanuel, who is the Area District Director, Extension Director. Catherine.
Thanks, Jim, and thank you to Jim, Tom, Dave, and Ann, and all of my other colleagues that I get to work with in the county. I think I'm going to change my name to Jim just so I can fit in a little bit more, if you wouldn't mind. It is a pleasure to be here, and I just give a little background. I have been in an extension for going on 7 years. This July will be 7 years. My first 4 years of work in extension was in Trumpeau County. I served as what's formerly called the Family Living Educator position. And my position was primarily focused on working with Latino families and making sure that they have information to the university of how to support and build in their community. And I'm Latina myself, so I'd say our community. And then Extension went through a major reorganization that I can share more about at another time, just for some background information. We had over a $3 million structural deficit that happened because of budget cuts at the state, and a huge administrative structure changed. There was at the time about 90 department heads in the state for 72 counties, so some doing co-department head responsibilities. And at the time, we were divided by about 4 districts within the state, or 4 regions. And so the extension leadership decided to change that model to kind of dissolve the department head model and the regional director model and go for 22 area extension directors. So during that time, I was hired to be the AED, which is our internal short term AED. You probably are going to hear that. Area Extension Director for Chippewa, Dunn, and Eau Claire counties. My office is located at the UW Eau Claire campus, and then I go to the counties once or twice a week, each county, to just check in with staff, meet with county administration. I attend all of the department head meetings, meet with any of you, and just try to stay in touch that way. I think it's pretty common for extension to feel like you're in learner mode. That's one of the joys of being in extension. You get to keep learning. And so even though this is coming up on my 3rd year of being a director, I still feel there's a lot to learn. And part of that comes from learning from all of you. The county contract is a co-investment. So the county invests in educational services. In the old model, counties invested in an educator, and that model doesn't occur anymore. But although that is an important nuance that we have made that change, you still see a lot of educators in Dunn County that are specifically allocated to Dunn County. So here in Dunn County, you have an agriculture educator, a FoodWise educator, and she's also a coordinator. And FoodWise is the federal nutrition education program. So that requires no co-investment from Dunn County, and you receive that in the county. Your investment is supporting by providing an office space and some very basic office supplies. And then you have a human development and relationships educator, and that used to be called the family living educator, but that position has a different, slightly different approach now. And then you also have a 4-H program coordinator. And that's your team here. You have one support specialist. And up until about 6 weeks ago, you had a shared community development educator who took on a job in Illinois as a specialist with Extension. So that position is vacant, and mostly everything in the state is frozen right now for even conversations on the local level. But what happens is we put out a monthly highlight report, and I think everybody who's on the committee got a copy of that in an email I sent. So that comes out, and so that's a nice way you get to keep a pulse on what everybody in the office is doing. And then about once a month, you'll have an educator come and share out just some of the local needs that they have evaluated and seen, and then the educational response that they have done. A lot of our work that we do in Extension is around capacity building and being with people. So we don't look at our work as we're doing work for somebody. We're trying to bring community along and meeting the local need and using knowledge from the university beyond a traditional campus and bringing it into the community to be with people to help them transform their lives because they had access to research-based information. So that's kind of us in a high-level nutshell. Right now, I'm in my basement. I got my little Wisconsin W right back here every day that I get to see. And I finally busted out of my basement last week and started working upstairs. I made myself a standing desk out of an old dresser because I had to bust out. And let's see, just one other warm welcome. I had a chance to email a little bit with Ann. Ann wrote back to the email, and Ann shared that she has experience in being in Extension and also a leadership program. At the time, before we made the big change to merge with UW-Madison, there was a program called the Academy for Leadership and Innovation. Is that the same one, Ann? Yeah, with Rosemary Potter. So I took that program as well. And so it's nice just to have that connection. And all of you, I know, bring something valuable and different insights that we need to hear as educational and university partners with you. You are, as policymakers, very close to the issues. You hear people bending and lending your ear quite a bit. And that helps us as one of our data points of how do we know that we're best serving the community. So I look forward to meeting you in person one day, and we'll do Zooms as long as we need to. But I want you to know you can contact me anytime. I welcome that. And if you ever want to meet on Zoom, before we can do something in person, I'm happy to do that, or a phone call. And just shoot an email or give me a call anytime, and I'm happy to get to know you as well. But be well as best you can. Crazy times.
Thank you, Catherine. We really appreciate it. And I can tell the whole committee, each month you can look forward to hearing from one of our Dunn County specialists report. And Julie and Catherine kind of line up who that'll be. And that's always very informative. And also the newsletter that you send out to us each month is very valuable. Each one of us read that, and wow, we can see really how busy you are through. So thank all of them for us, Catherine. Thank you. All right, we'll move on. At this point, I guess I'm wondering if Stacy can hear me. Can you hear me, Stacy? Can you talk back to us?
Well, I think I can. Can you hear me?
All right, good. We can't see you, Stacy, but let me give you a little introduction. You all remember that Eric Turner passed away last December. And since that time, of course, we ran our local Dunn County Economic Development Office in the second floor of our old government center with one person. It was basically Cherie. And that was very difficult, January, March, and I was elected president in January. And it became very obvious that we needed somebody to fill in here, and we weren't able to really go out and search for. So I got permission from our board to hire an interim executive director. And I think I fell into a barrel because basically, I don't know what that interference is. Is that me? Stacy Wigfield retired from the REACH organization on March 30th and was available. And I've known him for a long, long time. He knows people in Chippewa and Eau Claire and the EDC people in our area and everybody, and has a great interest in this. So I hired Stacy for an interim period from April 1st until June 30th. And his charge was, you come into Dunn County and go through our office and try to make contacts and let the community know, business, industries, any prospects know that we're still in business, and to try to carry on and see where we're at. And before I let Stacy tell you what he's been doing, I can only say that I found out that he had 12,000 email messages waiting for him. That blew my mind. However, now, Stacy, I'm going to introduce you, Stacy Wigfield, who's lived here in Dunn County a long time, and I'm glad to have him aboard. Tell us a little bit about what's going on here in Dunn County EDC, Stacy.
Well, Jim, first of all, you scared me when you said you didn't do any search at all. It's like you found me walking down the road one day. Threw me in the office here. And we have known each other a long time. And I was busy in a 36 career year of running nonprofits in a CEO position. And the other thing, Jim, thanks a lot for mentioning how I've been spending my early time here working on technology, which is completely failing me at this moment almost. But we're upgrading as we go, and that really is where I've been spending a good share of the beginning of my time here. That working on the infrastructure of the entire office here, getting it kind of cleaned up, kind of organized. There's old equipment up here, as you might imagine. I've got a new monitor in front of me, and I'll be darned if I can figure out how to turn the camera and the microphone on. So I don't know what that is. I know better than that, but I'll figure it out. So things like that. There's a new office machine coming here so we can print something up. I just printed something up, for example, from the Economic Development Administration, and it turned out to be the executive summary and the plan for their latest round of funding, and it was 45 pages, and I'd have loved to have been able to print that on two sides instead of on one side and save some trees. So that's kind of technology updates I'm going for here. We might need some new computers eventually. The laptop's all dented up, but other than that, in terms of trying to keep the office functioning in the role of being an economic development corp, as you all know, it's not business as usual here. We're not fielding a bunch of phone calls or people that want to either open up a business, start up a business, or move their business from Tennessee or Ohio or anywhere else. So those typical contacts with people aren't happening. I've had a few, one on childcare, another on residential. I'm working on one, somebody's got a specialized painting business that might need a building in town. So there's a very little bit of that, but I've been spending a great deal of my time, as well as Cherie, the office admin here, doing exactly as all of you are doing, and that's going to grabbing a hold of about every webinar that's out there, starting with the early ones that I kind of call what in the heck just happened here, as we learn about COVID-19 and the closings. And that kind of segued into same thing you've all seen, how to finance this and fund it, whether it's to keep your doors open during this crazy time or into the future. And then that has segued into the let's get open, let's turn the dial, and how is that going to be funded, and trying to learn all about the various sources of funding that's out there for various things. One of which I just heard about today, all somewhat related, all a little different. I was very interested in talking to some of the business people I know about some of the SBA loans, if they qualify, and if they get the right loan, that the SBA will actually make your first 6 months payment. Don't quiz me on the exact loan that is. It's in front of me here somewhere. But anyway, trying to keep up with all that, as well as just joined at the very end of last week, the very local, I think we're calling ourselves the Economic Recovery Team, which is kind of specific to Dunn County. It has people like the Chief of Police and the Dunn County Sheriff and the Chancellor and Doug Mell, a lot of people that you know, and a lot of people, some of the people might be on here right now. That sounds like a good squad, especially when they got my ears perked up when they talked about cooperating with the entire Chippewa Valley. Eau Claire and Chippewa County have through their chambers and through their recovery teams, have a great interest in making this a Chippewa Valley thing, not just a Dunn County or an Eau Claire County or a Chippewa County or city thing. So having just joined that last week, we're meeting, I think, every Friday, I think we're set up for, as well as some other board meetings. EDC's had a board meeting already. Momentum West has had a board meeting already. I think we've got another one Wednesday. That I've checked my calendar. Been watching WISI a lot, watching some legislation and some of the seminars and webinars coming through there, and just been plenty busy. Jim's been a great help. I mentioned Cherie, the office admin here. She carried the load for a while, and she's been a great help here. And I'm telling people I'm learning a whole new set of acronyms. Again, after all the time in the human service field, you know how acronymy that is. And there's a whole bunch of new ones here I got to look up every now and again. But learning a little every day and just really enjoying it, and hope I can be helpful till the EDC folks can get together what they need to get together and move forward into the future. But in the meantime, I'm going to try to work real hard here to keep the office functioning and be everything that anybody needs. So you got anybody that's interested in starting up a business or moving or how to hang on, we've got some questions I can answer, and I'm always been a resource kind of person. So if I don't have an answer, which I probably don't, I know a lot of resources. So having a ball so far, and thanks for this opportunity.
Yes, and I will say to you, Stacy, thank you. And I think you're doing a fantastic job in getting us oriented and going back. I might add that our county manager, Paul Miller, is on that same committee that Stacy referred to.
Yes.
And we all get, and county board supervisors and all employees of Dunn County get a great newsletter from Paul every time after the meeting. So they're keeping us current on the COVID-19 status here in Dunn County with that report. And when Stacy told me about who's all on that, wow, that's exactly the people we need in Dunn County. And I'm glad you're on that committee with them, Stacy. We're going to move on, but Stacy, thank you very much. And if Stacy can't figure out technology, what's wrong, I don't know, because he talked to me, I got to give you a personal story. He said, Jim, you need to be able to text. And I said, why? Well, I got an old flip top cell phone, you know, I've had for 100 years. And he says, no, you got to get a new phone, a smartphone. So sure, I went with him and I bought one. And of course it was smarter than me, but Stacy's been showing me how, and every time I've had a computer problem, Stacy will show me how to get out of it. And he took me from the kindergarten to the 5th grade level fairly fast. So if Stacy can't figure out what's wrong down there, I don't know who will. But anyway,
I know. I'm feeling it.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to move on. Thank you very much, Stacy. At this point, Bob Colson, and I'm delighted to have Bob update us a little bit about on planning, what's going on, and especially maybe, Bob, what you can update us regarding broadband in Dunn County. So Bob Colson, you're on.
Well, thanks for having me. And I'm attending via my phone, and I didn't check to see how much strength I have in my phone. So if I cut out, I will call back on a telephone. So if all of a sudden I'm gone, wait a few minutes and I'll
we can hear you fine.
The phone, you know, but my phone my smartphone may give out. I may have to reconnect via just a landline, but I think we'll be okay. So, you know, broadband, we've been working, my department, I'm the planning and zoning administrator for Dunn County, for those who I haven't met before. And I report to one committee on a regular basis, which is PR&D, and y'all met Tom Quinn, and then that committee meets tomorrow. I meet with a lot of other committees as the planner, just because there are functions that other committees do that sometimes my department can be a resource too. And in terms of CR&T, we've been a resource to this group for at least 2 years now, maybe going on 3 for broadband. We did a study, a very comprehensive study. We identified in Dunn County at the time where broadband is available, where it isn't available, and we even coined an area called the donut, which is an area that surrounds the city of Menominee, and sometimes it gets outwards around 6 miles of you know, an area with no broadband service. And we've been working with you know, as much as we can with the local service providers to help them to write grants to bring service to all of Dunn County, but the focus has been really on mainly on the donut area. And so I can tell you that back on, when was it? March 16th, I got a phone call from Preston Pearson, and he is one of the higher ups at Mosaic, and Mosaic is a big provider up in the northern tier of Dunn County, and they were finishing up on a grant, and they had just received another grant for up in that area, but he's also looking to do some put some loans, I should say. They have some loans up in that northern tier. They're also looking to get into applying for some of the broadband grants, and we had a long discussion. And this is right about the time that COVID came in and things started shutting down, and so I was going to be on the highway department's agenda. Mr. Preston was going to be there to express his concerns about broadband, and that his hopes that Dunn County would move towards broadband forward. But since that time, since March, we have not had a meeting with Highway. So I haven't had a chance to go in and speak to Highway. I did speak to both Highway and CR&T before we rewrote the ordinance, because it did take a rewrite of our zoning ordinance to put in language to be broadband forward. At the time that I was at both the committees, neither committee expressed any concern, but some of that may have changed a little bit. I don't know, just with monies and everything. And so I wanted to go back to Highway and just make sure that they're still on board, because without Highway, because there are some funds that they have some permits for working in the right of way, and so without them being on board and falling in line with the criteria of broadband forward, it would be pretty difficult. And I just got a notice that my battery power is 15%, so I'm going to speak quickly. And so we're waiting for that to come back so that we can the meeting, so I can get before Highway and remind them at least what I thought they said. CR&T is behind it. PR&D, they did approve that language, and that language has been adopted into the ordinance, and so the language is all there. Now it's just making sure that we dot the I's and cross the T's. I can also tell you that there were 3 grants awarded in Dunn County for broadband, and I have not spoken to those with 24/7. I haven't spoken with them about those yet, but I will be reaching out to them. And I guess the one thing I'd like to close with before I run out of power is that I think that broadband it's an incredibly important piece of Dunn County. It touches everybody, and I think that that we need to understand the importance of broadband, especially with something as drastic as a pandemic. There are people that are stuck at home. families with children that probably, you know, aren't able to access some of the resources if there was some homeschooling or some schooling resources. And there's just a lot of other things beyond schooling, you know, that I think that having broadband access during something as big as a pandemic is important. So I just want to put a bug in this committee's ear for the next coming budget. And the chairman, we spoke about this, is that ways for Dunn County to be a little bit more involved in the grant process, and maybe there's and we can talk about that in more detail. But as the budget comes up, be thinking about broadband and what Dunn County can do to show some support to those ISPs when they request grants and go to the state for some money. So broadband forward is still moving, but I got to wait till I can get back to another committee to really figure out just where we're at. And I would invite both Jim, you absolutely, and Tom Quinn might want to also attend the highway just to hear the conversation and maybe weigh in on it. So, and I'll keep you guys abreast of where that is.
Thank you very much, Bob. If I could, I'd like to follow up on that broadband, because that is an important part of our committee and working with all those other committees. And the 3 grants, 2 of them went to 24/7. One of them is a Pheasants Crossing that they didn't get before, like Bob says, within a donut area. And the other one is south of town, what we call a solar field area. That's that area down there where that Downey Electric has that huge solar plant. That's about 6 miles. And the other one's north of Colfax. That was Bloomer Telephone that got that grant, and they will be putting fiber in north of Colfax up in that highway north of Colfax toward Sand Creek. I did reach out to our superintendent of schools here in Menominee, Joe Zendowski, a few days ago, and he and I had quite a discussion about how are these students doing right now at home regarding getting their education. And just as we would all expect, many of them can't. Many of them have no service, and many of them have, if it is, it's not adequate enough. And that's really critical right now. And then think about it too, not only the broadband service for internet at home, but also for what we call a medicine. The people that need to be able to refer or can't come into the pharmacy or get the medicines or their prescriptions. So it's, with this pandemic right now, is 2 things that are critical. All are more critical why we need broadband throughout rural Dunn County. And you know that, but it hit us right now on how lacking we are. Bob, thank you very much for what you're doing and for your report. We will look forward to hearing more and when we can get broadband forward as a Dunn County certified county in the near future. Thank you, Bob. Well, let's move ahead then. And Jim Zahns is very interested, as we all are. We welcome a new person to our here that's fairly new with tourism, and Jim Zahns is with all of us in Dunn County. So Kimberly, update us what's going on with the Menominee tourism and on how we can work together. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Kimberly, the new tourism manager at the Menominee Chamber. So I did start about 2 months ago. So I was able to work in the office for about a week and a half before we all started working from home. So definitely during this time, tourism is kind of on a hold for a little bit. But in the future, a lot of experts are saying it's going to be a lot more regional travel, a lot more road trip destinations, which we are a perfect place for road trip destinations. So definitely kind of moving forward within the next year when people aren't going to want to be traveling super far away from home. So definitely kind of still advertising to people just a little bit around our radius to kind of keep in mind for when everyone can come out and travel and be like, we are perfect outdoor areas. We got the trails, we have definitely more space outside to be versus in a big, large city. So definitely working off of that. And definitely just working on making connections with other people within the city and working with the hotel managers and the event centers to see kind of how we can all work together for the future and bring more tourism here.
Right. Thank you, Kimberly. We can hardly wait. I know that the governor's tourism meeting that some of us were scheduled to go to was canceled for all year, and it will not be held now until next March again. And many events that impact us with tourism have been canceled, not just postponed, but canceled for the year. And so the tourism industry is going to be hurting all year long. There's no doubt about that. And we will just do what we can until we can open up and do it. So Kimberly, I know, and Jim Zahns, I will be asking you then with your interest in tourism here to be working closely with Kimberly and how maybe we can expand that T in our CR&T of committee and maybe looking at expanding a little bit of doing some tourism things outside Kimberly, of your area that is within the city limits, more or less, or the greater Menominee area. So Kimberly, thank you for being here today and for bringing that. And we look forward to working with you more in the future. Okay. Dave, our county board chair, I'm going to ask you now to highlight or bring up a few things that you want to share with us right now of that your announcements or concerns or charges that you'd like to give our committee. So we're just kind of forming Dave. So as our county board chair, Dave Bartlett.
No, I didn't. I had my hand raised to ask Bob a question. Bob, you were talking about the Mosaic wanting to get a grant or a loan and to verify that the highway department hasn't changed their mind. Well, that went to county board that we approved that. So why would they change their mind? I would hate to see us hold up Mosaic to, you know, thinking they should, that it has to go to highway department. I would think they could move ahead with their loans and grants.
Well, I agree, and I wanted to talk to the then chair, Gary Seipel, who has left, and he remembered it. He just wanted, and I wanted to get before the group just to make sure that there weren't any changes in terms of their thinking, because I remember having a conversation that said, you know, it's only for broadband that you can do this, and you could treat them differently than other people and still charge other users a different fee for working in your right of way, but broadband you can't. And I just wanted to make sure that they were still on board, because I'd heard some rumblings differently. So I didn't want to just assume and move forward without at least touching base one last time.
But can they change their mind after it went to county board and we approved that?
No.
Well, all we've approved is the language that says that we can apply for broadband forward. We haven't officially applied for it yet, and so I guess I just wanted to make sure that before I went down and applied, that the highway understood or were still on board with that.
Well, it's gone to county board and we approved that we can apply. So I think we should be applying and get it done. So I don't want to hear that we held a company up from putting in fiber or something or getting a grant or a loan. I would like to be moving forward on this.
Okay. Well, I got 5% left here. What I'll do, Dave, because I'm afraid I'm going to run out of power here. I will send a note out to Highway. I will carbon you and CR&T that we are moving ahead, and then I will start the ball rolling to get broadband forward, the application moving them.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Dave.
It's just going very dark, so I think I'm going to run out of power. So I'm going to, if there's no other questions, I'm going to check out, because
Okay, Bob, thank you.
I'm going to get kicked out.
Back to Dave. Yes. Okay, back to you, Dave.
I didn't really have anything else, Jim, for your committee or anything. I just wanted to try to get that straightened out and get it moving forward. I know Mosaic wants to start going into the Ridgeland Exchange, and a lot of that is in Dunn County.
Right.
And I don't want to hold them up for any reason. I'd probably get next to solid waste. That is the most probably one of the most frequent phone calls I get is about broadband, and it's gotten worse since the kids are at school or out of school and trying to work. In my area, I can't count on running a Zoom program in my house right now. And I've talked to the neighbors, and one neighbor said, well, I was trying to do some work for the farm stuff, and my computer was working real slow. And he says, I looked around and I had 4 other computers working in the house. So he said, I guess that's why. And I'm downstream from them. So, you know, it can only handle, the wires can only handle so much. And now we have a lot more people at home doing it. So it's more important to get it done. So I didn't really have anything else for your committee at this time.
Well, Dave, on behalf of all of us, thank you for participating in those comments and with broadband. And I will kind of follow up on what I didn't mention earlier about broadband. We had scheduled, meaning the Dunn County Economic Development Corporation, at our annual meeting, which was going to be early, to bring the state broadband director here to Dunn County as our keynote speaker. Well, that got postponed until the first week in June from May. Now it got postponed again because we felt nobody wants to go out and quite frankly, we thought it would be important to bring the state broadband director here to Dunn County to our annual economic development meeting and talk to him about the importance of broadband here in Dunn County. We're still hopefully going to be able to have this meeting yet, but who knows? We don't dare set a date, maybe August. If it gets to be September, it might be too late and leave it for another year. But broadband is at the center of all of us, not Dave, and you are right. I'm hearing from people too right now, and it is critical. And you know, you just throw your hands up and you say, I don't know what we can do. But we're going to continue going at it. So thank you very much. All right, we've gone through our reports at this particular point. There's no action that we need to take today. And so I will ask for announcements at this point from any of the committee members that you care to make an announcement for the good of everybody, and all we're doing is make an announcement. This is not a debatable subject. Just make the announcements and then we will go on. Anybody from the committee have an announcement?
I have a question, Jim.
Larry Bjork.
Is Stacy still with us?
Stacy, can you? Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Stacy. Go ahead, Larry.
I wanted to ask you a question when you were on before, and you know, I think obviously COVID-19 is going to be a shakeup through the whole state, and there are going to be businesses and people making changes that they probably had not anticipated. And I think Dunn County has a lot to offer, and maybe even you could say a healthier environment than maybe some of these businesses are operating now. And then with your groups, with your incubation centers, I think we should be asking the tech school, we should be asking Stout, is their deliverance, the program, going to be using all the facilities that they have now? And maybe there's a facility that would become available for an incubation program to help a business get going in our area. I think you got to kind of look at our resources in the area, and it isn't white pine anymore, but there serves a lot of brick and mortar. And Dunn County has to do whatever we can to encourage economic development. And can we bring Stout and can we bring Chippewa Valley under the umbrella to maybe provide some space for people that may want to move their businesses because maybe their business has failed someplace else and they might be looking for someplace to move to. Why not Dunn County? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I know personally of 2 incubation centers that have been up and running for quite some time. One's out at the Oaklawn Harmony Center. And I don't know at this moment if that's full. I'll definitely stop out there. I know of another one in Eau Claire, good friends with Mark Kalish, who runs that one. And I know there's space there because I just talked to him at a chamber event here. I know that Stout and CVTC are both engaged in all of these webinars and seminars. And I know that they're involved in both of the incubation centers. To what extent, I'm not sure, but I can certainly find out more. But I know 2 that are operating, one in Eau Claire and one in Menominee. Then both, as far as I know, have space at this moment. And I know that information has been coming through the Small Business Development Center at UW Eau Claire. And then there's another Small Business Development Center in River Falls as well. I'm more active with the one out of Eau Claire, but they're also involved in all of the webinars that I've been on in terms of business development, enhancement, startup. I just don't think there's a lot of people asking that question that you just did, Larry, but that can come in time maybe then, and we'll have answers for them.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you. I think
Any other questions of anybody? Or,
What was that, Larry? Larry, did you have something?
I just think it's a great opportunity for Dunn County to position themselves. I mean, you know, there's going to be lots of changes that are made. We don't even know where the end of this COVID-19 is, but let's start being proactive, and the pieces fall, maybe we can catch a few.
Yeah, good.
Thank you, Larry. Any other members have announcements or questions they didn't have a chance to ask before of any of our presenters? Well, if not, I will have just a few announcements before we close. You've all heard by now that Dunn County Allison Dairyland program has been put off 2 years. Since Walworth County was not able to have the event now this month in May, they awarded or announced the winner of Allison Dairyland will be in June, and without public. And so the Department of State and Wisconsin Department of Ag, Trade and Consumer Protection that heads this up. In all fairness to Walworth County, they said you can have it next year, and Dane County has the 75th year, and Dunn County, you're put off to the next year. So that's it. And we will then be hosting Allison Dairyland later. The Dunn County June Dairy Breakfast was totally canceled for this year, which always the second Saturday in June. And we like to have people going to that. I don't know of any other particular announcements at this particular time that I want to share with you, except if I'll give it one last chance. Anybody else think of anything? Again, I want to say thank you to Julie Wathke for our reporting and our county clerk for all she does all the time to get the minutes out and the announcements of our meetings, to get this Zoom all ready for us, and to Luann and all our people here at the county. So from all of us, thank you, Julie. And welcome to all of you. We look forward to the time when we can be together. Meanwhile, this didn't work. And to our new members, to Tom and to Ann, welcome to the CR&T committee. We look forward to working with you in the future. Any other final announcements? Meetings adjourned at, I'm sorry?
Future meetings.
Yes, the future meeting, thank you, Dave. The future meeting is June 8th at 4:45.
And does that work for everybody? The new people?
Well, that's a good question. I suppose we probably at this point, I'll put it on the agenda, Dave, for next month to turn around and we will discuss a time. But for this particular time as announcements, our meeting is set for June 8th at 4:45. And meanwhile, all of you think about it. If you want to change the dates, we certainly are open to talk about it and time. Meanwhile, next meeting will be June 8th at 4:45. Again, to all of you, thank you. I think this worked fine. We're done at a little early, so stay healthy, stay safe, and stay positive. Meeting's adjourned.